All right, let's start. It is fantastic to see this audience. Austin and I have been doing this for a couple of years, and a couple of years ago we were talking about, does flight simulation have a future? Clearly it does. My name is Ben Subnick. I'm one of the development leads for X-Plane, and if you guys are watching at home on YouTube, a good drinking game is every time I call something fantastic, take a drink. It's a good way to do it. We usually start this with just a quick show of hands to get a sense of what the audience is doing, but European law requires me to inform you that before you raise your hands and tell us, if you admit you're using X-Plane, we're going to collect personal information. Can you just, a show of hands, who here is flying X-Plane on a regular basis? Why isn't it all of you? That's great to see. How many people are flying with VR hardware on a regular basis? We're starting to see some. We're starting to see some. All right. So you guys all know what this is. This is X-Plane. It's a flight simulator based on the real physics of airplanes. And in X-Plane 11, we got it a few new friends. We got it a new user interface that makes X-Plane much easier to use. We got it physically based rendering, so the aircraft look fantastic. We got it a real G1000, so you get fantastic avionics. And we got it F-mod sound, so that everything sounds good. And since then, we've pretty much just been at the beach, drinking mojitos and relaxing, not really doing anything. There's actually been more. We've added VR support natively to X-Plane. So you can plug in your headset and you can see everything in X-Plane in amazing detail. We've been adding landmarks to the simulator from all over the world. We've been adding global airports, thousands of them, and Lego bricks to make those airports look even better. So we figure this is a pretty good simulator. It's a good world to build around X-Plane, but it's also a really good platform for third-party add-ons. And so it's been really exciting to see the adoption of new add-ons coming to X-Plane. Orbix has come to X-Plane, and that's been a huge development. Their stuff looks amazing. Airsoft has been a partner with us since X-Plane 10. They've now got over 40 add-ons. When we went to Cosper, Just Flight was a great host to us, and now it's great to see them creating add-ons for X-Plane 11. You guys have seen Corfu, right? This is a great-looking airport. The runways look fantastic. Coronado has been making airplanes for X-Plane since before it was cool, but it's great to see them adopting F-mod and adopting PBR rendering. And I wanted to show you the the FlightSimExpo 737 because not just is it a great airplane, but it's a great use of X-Plane. When you're in that cockpit at night, all the lights on the dashboard are real lights, so it's a very dynamic environment. The materials on that old airplane, it takes full advantage of the PBR lighting, so it looks great. And this is an airplane with F-mod sound, so when you stand behind this thing, it sounds fantastic. So it's been really cool to see add-ons taking advantage of what X-Plane 11 can do. I apologize to all the add-on makers who are here who we can't show their slides, but it's great to be in a situation where X-Plane has so many add-ons that we just don't have time to show everything. This is our 747's default cockpit. It's a completely working 3D cockpit. What do you guys think the system requirements are to run this at 45 FIPS? Maybe you need a GeForce 1060? Maybe you need a 1070? This is, of course, Chris and I trolling you. That shot was taken on an iPhone. And I mention this not just because all of the technology that we've got to make our airplanes great and to make third parties great, this technology is going into our mobile products as well. And I think that's so important if we care about flight sim, because new users who are coming to flight sim, their first device might not be a PC, it might be a smartphone. So I think it's really important that we have X-Plane on smartphones as well. And they're very, very capable now. Every year we talk about the progress we've made with the X-Plane Scenery Gateway, and every year I think to myself, there's no way that the growth of this project can continue. We just added another 500 airports. So I was blown away when Tyler got me the number. And we've broken 7,003 airports built directly into X-Plane. We did We did 1,315 airports just in X-Plane 1120, and we've got 645 more airports coming in X-Plane 1125. So this is a huge achievement by the X-Plane community. We've got the top 50 busiest airports, all in X-Plane in 3D, all of the Class B airports. And this is a number that I was really excited about. 668 separate contributors all worked on airports for X-Plane 11. So this has been a really successful project. And the airports just look great. I mean, this is built into X-Plane, and you fly there and it looks fantastic. Can we get Julian up for a second?
Yeah.
Come on up. Julian is the visionary behind the Scenery Gateway. Before we had the gateway, he said, if we build it, we would come. And so you and your 668 collaborators have just done a fantastic job.
Amazing. That's the first time I've seen that number. I thought it was like 12.
No, it's been amazing. While we are embarrassing the entire X-Plane art team is here. Can we get all the art guys to come on up? Come on, Peter, Chris, come on up, guys. These guys are all the way in from Europe. Come on up. You guys make X-Plane look amazing. I am blown away by the art I see, and I'm always so happy that our code can have this level of art to make X-Plane look so good. We also have some of the programmers here. Can the programmers, can you guys stand up? You guys make all the bugs. What the hell are you guys doing? We've got most of our programming team here. You guys should be back at work. I don't know why. Can we, and also, can we get Jennifer, and who else from operations is here? Some of them are still making the booth, but we've got sales, we've got marketing, tech support. And they keep the lights on. They keep the trains rolling, so we totally appreciate what they do. This is the X-Plane team, and there it goes. What we want to do today is just talk a little bit about what this team has been doing and where they're going with X-Plane. And what I'd like you to keep in mind the entire time is we are not done with X-Plane. We keep trying to make it better. And I think we're going to end up with an even better sim, and I think we're going to make a really good platform for people to make add-ons for and to support the flight sim community. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Alex Unruh. Alex is our art director. The rest of you guys, if you want to head on back down, and Alex is going to show you guys what the art team's been doing. Okay. Right side of the screen.
Right side goes forward. That's what we need to know. So as Ben was saying, I'm Alex Unruh. I'm the art director here at Laminar Research. You just saw my great team. They're fantastic. Hats off to all of them. Shake their hands when you meet them. So I'm going to talk about what we've got coming up for 11.25. And it looks like it skipped something, but we're in Vegas, so let's welcome to Vegas. We have got the strip there. I don't know if you've noticed, but everything is illuminated in new lights. We've got green lights, purple lights, all sorts of colors. Scenery authors can use those to uplight anything, which is pretty cool. More of the strip from the opposite direction. We've of course built all the way up to the stratosphere, not up. More lengthwise. And let's just give a little slide here. We've been doing a little bit of groundwork, new taxi lines, or updated taxi lines, more varieties, shapes, colors. You might be able to see them here, not entirely sure. Come check it out in the booth. But anyway, as Ben mentioned earlier, we have 645 new fully 3D gateway airports for 11.25. That's a lot, and not a huge amount of time between 11.20 and now. So for the airport authors out there who've done great things, and those who are just getting into it, let me go through some of the newish tools that we've been using. This is terminal kit. This came out in 11.1. But what you see is all included default scenery. This is the brainchild of Peter, who you will meet at the booth. This is a shot of Munich. Another terminal, you can see different facade types. All the air conditioners, all of the gates, everything else is all included. And of course, also in 11.2.5, we previewed this last year, but we're finally bringing in Chicago. So we have got the Willis Tower, the Chase Building, the Exelon Center at night. Another shot there. And of course, we have the beam. This is just a really great demonstration of our PBR materials and chrome and everything shiny that we all love to see. And seeing that when you walk around it, dynamic and everything, is really fantastic. So that's 11.2.5, but wait. We have things coming in 11.30 as well. First things first, we have a new batch of Autogen. We brought out Autogen a year ago for Europe, or more Autogen for Europe, including lots of industrial areas that the United States has been lacking. So we decided to do some of that here. Now, those who don't know the Autogen system, we use OpenStreetMap data, we use land class data, and we basically throw and bake everything into our scenery tiles, I should say, and X-Plane builds a plausible world on top of all that data using our art assets. So here's a factory scene, industrial scene. Got a little bit more of that. Trucks, garbage, clutter, boxes, just about everything that you need. This might be a familiar scene for anyone who flew into Vegas. The industrial warehouse roofs and all those patterns that you see as you fly in and out of cities. Another shot, the amount of detail and thoughtful considerations, of course, really sell the plausible world that we're going for with the Autogen. And more. I don't know if you can see the price of the gas there at the gas station. It is $3.80 a gallon, so we might be in California. I'm not sure. Do not park your Cessna here. Don't do it. And then another scene here. Now, of course, all of these cluttered pieces and goodies and whatnot that you see, we want to make available to you. So here they are. We've got all of your clutter, everything that you could possibly want to put into your gateway scenery. Now, to facilitate this, we're doing library updates. The library for the longest time has been kind of a mishmash of different organizations and different thoughts and different ways of doing things. I am guilty of putting things in the wrong places as well. But we've gone ahead and we're reorganizing everything to make it easier for you to pick out what you want and to place it, and in doing so, make your airports better. Now we have the plausible world sorted pretty well. We also know how important the real world is because we live in it. If you don't know where this is, well, welcome to New York. This is the Brooklyn Bridge. We have multiple bridges in New York City, although this is the only one I'll be showing. We've got the Empire State Building, of course. New World Trade Center. Lady Liberty. Here's an overhead shot of downtown. And then the obligatory perspective shot. Now also, it is, let's bring you the Capitol. Washington, D.C. There's the rotunda there. White House and all of its manicured gardens. Lincoln Memorial, the reflecting pool, Washington Monument. You'll notice that the reflecting pool is a great use of the physically based rendering that we utilize in our engine. A dusk shot, and another for good measure. So everything that I've shown here, the new AG, the library update, New York City and DC are all slated for 11:30. And 11.2.5 should be coming out very soon, and that's going to get you all the goodies that I showed you earlier. Thank you, and I'm going to hand this off to Austin. take it away. Okay, so I've been hard at work on the physics in X-Plane, and what can I say? I guess this is nothing new, right? And founder and king. I did not make these slides. It's the first time I've seen them, okay? But, okay, so I've been doing a tremendous amount behind the scenes, a lot of which I cannot tell you about. I'm working on an electric vertical takeoff and landing airplane in reality, and I can't go into the details of all that, but it's been a fascinating case study of X-Plane and how it handles rotors, and really look carefully at the physics of propellers and rotors and engines and wings and fuselage wing interactions. And it's caused me to really go back and reinvestigate all the physics in X-Plane as if my next goal depended on it, which really has a focusing effect on trying to make sure the physics are right. So we've got a handful of new features in PlaneMaker. What we've got here is, let's see, better jet engine modeling. Oh, so the jet engine model in X-Plane has always been kind of hanky. It's, you know, you got N1 and N2, and they're kind of like hooked together, which is stupid, because they're actually not in most engines, in most jet engines. And so now we've got really true twin spool designs. This is a really cool one. One of the limits in X-Plane has always been we've never known what drag coefficient to enter for the fuselage and the landing gear, like you know, wheel pants and like engine nacelles. If you're like me, you're sitting there in PlaneMaker going, well, I bet X-Plane will follow the rules I enter, but I have no idea what drag coefficient to enter. So what we do now, starting with X-Plane 1130, which will be out soon, is PlaneMaker looks at the geometry of the shape and the wetted area and the speed you're going to be going according to the B-speeds of the aircraft, comes up with the Reynolds number drag coefficient of actually rubbing the air against the skin of the fuselage or the wheel fairing or the wheel pant, you know, whatever you've got, or the engine nacelle. And based on the wetted area and the drag of the air with the body, and then the frontal area of the body actually computes the coefficient of drag. And then what it does is you see up there is it recommends a drag coefficient based on the geometry. So by all means, enter any drag coefficient you want in PlaneMaker, but now I give you a pretty decent recommendation that probably hold up in court as a decent estimate of what the drag of a streamlined body should be. Yes, that's just going to help you out there. Did I skip one by mistake? Yeah, oh, this is a really nice one, prop wash. So it used to be that X-Plane just said it's going to accelerate the air by a certain amount consistent with momentum theory before and behind the prop. And then somebody noticed the prop wash, the Beach Starship. Everybody know what a Beach Starship looks like? You got the engines way back on the tail and the canards way up in the front. And somebody said the prop wash from my pusher props on my Beach Starship are increasing airspeed over the canards up on the nose. And that was the point that I realized that simply saying that if the prop wash is 20 knots, we apply it in a tube is no longer good enough. I have to look at how the air is actually sucked into the rotors and gradually builds up prop wash until it intersects the disc. And then the air is pressurized and gradually continues to speed up after it's already traveled through the prop disc, which is something a lot of people don't know. And now you can see it here in the King Air. So I just sit here in the King Air, I just punch the throttle to full while jamming on the brakes. And you can see the suction effect as air starts to get pulled into the prop, hits the prop and accelerated, and continues to accelerate more behind the prop as that pressurized airstream expands and goes to a higher speed behind the prop. And this is really good because it helps get that airflow over the wing and the horizontal stab, or maybe the canard, if their airplane had one, really dialed in based on the prop wash through the prop. So this is just the next level of aerodynamic accuracy. Another one is downwash. So I got some new NACA tech reports on what exactly downwash should be, and not just what downwash should be, but what downwash should be as you get close to the ground. Because remember, the wing kicks the downwash down onto the horizontal stabilizer, but as you get close to the ground, the wing can't kick the air down anymore, can it? Because the runway is just grabbing that air and flattening it out. And so downwash changes as you get close to the runway. So I found some NACA tech reports and whatnot on downwash, and then I found another one where they took a Boeing 707, set it up to trim, flew the approach, and did not touch the stick for the flare. They let the airplane get close to the ground. The downwash diminished as it interfered with the runway. The downwash was reduced on the horizontal stab, and the nose just plunked down.
and they just went boom, down onto the runway. And this is an effect that X-Plane does have, but it's been too strong. And so going back over these reports, I compared the result with the flight test result from actually doing this in the 707, and now we are within like a degree or two of how much the nose plopped down in the real airplane. So X-Plane's not imitating that nose down result that comes as you get into downwash. It's a better downwash model, so the nose coming down the right amount results, which is always the way X-Plane does things, of course. Body lift and side force. So we've refined the body side force on the bodies to be more accurate. So one of the problems X-Plane has had in the past is the fuselage has generated too much lift. Now there has been an F-15 in reality that had a wing ripped off in a mid-air collision. The guy still flew the airplane home, based largely on the lift from the fuselage. So yes, fuselages do produce lift, but X-Plane is probably overestimating the effect. And so I started going through the net to try and really dial in the fuselage lift forces. And I found some decent references showing me how much lift the fuselage should produce. But the references never told me where the force acts on the fuselage. Is it the front? Is it the back? Is it the middle? My instinct tells me that the 0 angles of attack, 0 degrees angle of attack of the fuselage, the lift should act at the 25% chord of the fuselage, or 25% of the way back, because that's what wings do. And if the fuselage goes to a 90-degree side slip, the force should act right in the center of the fuselage, because at that point, well, it's just the aerodynamic center of the body. But that was only my intuition, and I couldn't find any documents to tell me, so I had to test it. So I needed some sort of a wind tunnel. I don't have one. Maybe I can move through the wind instead. I needed a vehicle that would let me move a test article through the air, testing where the aerodynamic force would act on a streamlined body. And preferably this vehicle could go on some sort of an autopilot or something like that, so I could focus on the aerodynamic test and not moving the vehicle. So what would such a vehicle look like? Luckily my wife has one. It's a Tesla Model S, and of course that's the moment that the clicker decides to break. There we go. So this is the test vehicle. So what we did is I went into my rocketry room and started getting out my spare rocket parts. I grabbed my wife's car and went out and found a deserted road, put it on autopilot, set it at about 30-40 miles an hour. And what you can't quite tell from that is that duct tape and scotch tape and whatnot, I can undo that, and I can expand and contract the leading and trailing trailing parts of that body, so that the pivot point, and what you can't tell from looking at that picture, that's actually a launch tube within a pipe, so it can pivot absolutely freely like a weather vane. And so I can adjust the length of those bodies fore and aft of the pivot point to really see where the aerodynamic center of the body is. Where does that lift and drag force act? And so running up and down the road on autopilot, I was able to confirm that, yeah, the rocket's basically neutrally centered with the force acting at the 25% of the body length back, and at 90 degrees angles of attack, it was 50% of the way back, and I could find the curve to interpolate between the two. So naturally, of course, then I applied this to X-Plane, and if you look at X-Plane 1120, this is a fuselage force. It's right in the center of the body, and it's too much. Now, with this data, these are the fuselage forces at 1130. As you see, it's at 25% of the way back. You can see the fuselage lift line there. It's 25% of the way back, and it's not nearly as strong. The overall pitch moment in the airplane is kind of similar, but the lift has to come from the wings, not the body. And then what's cool is in this airplane, as you pull the nose up or down or kick the rudder left and right, you can see the forces move on the fuselage from the 25% of the way body length back to the 50% of the body length. And you don't actually have to do anything in PlaneMaker to make this happen, or X-Plane for that matter, because X-Plane looks at the geometry from PlaneMaker to figure out where the 25 and 50% length is. Now there is one thing that you do still have to do to get all this new stuff that I'm telling you about. So me and Ben have a constant series of ongoing arguments in the background that you'll never find out about. Here's what it is. I'm constantly coming out with new stuff saying I want to roll it in now, and Ben is constantly saying, no, you can't roll it down, you're going to mess up everybody's add-ons. And so that's our ongoing argument. And me and Ben, we finally found a way to kind of a half-assed approach to solve this for 1130. And what we did is we came up with this checkbox. Use experimental flight model. If you turn this on or off, then reload the aircraft you're flying now. If the experimental flight model is turned on, then you will get all the new stuff I just told you about, and other stuff as well. If you want to maintain compatibility with all your add-on fleet, fine, leave the box off. So those are a few of the new flight model things. Those are the major ones. There's more, but those are the major ones that we have for 1130. And so now I guess we got whatever's next, which I'm guessing is going to involve Philip. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Philip Ringer. I work on everything in X-plane that does not have air going through it or over it. So basically all parts of the airplane that are systems or avionics or stuff in the cockpit you interact with, but I leave the flight model physics to Austin, obviously. In real life, I'm a flight instructor, so I teach people to fly IFR, both in the US and in Germany. And from doing this, I of course have certain requirements that I want X-plane to do. So let's talk about the new system stuff in 1130. I looked at oxygen systems because I got my own high altitude pressurized aircraft endorsement flying Austin's aircraft. That's why I noticed there were things missing in X-plane to really do that. Then I added anti-ice and de-ice systems to X-plane that didn't really work right before. I looked at the simulation of propellers and especially propeller governors in X-plane because there's a lot of features missing there that I'm bringing in. And then finally, Chris asked me, hey, we need more and better autopilots in X-plane, especially X-plane mobile, because people were having a hard time figuring out how this works. And then also, of course, many real pilots are used to exactly how their STEC-55 or the Bendix King autopilot works. And they were finding X-plane not quite doing it as they were expecting it. So I took a long and hard look at general aviation autopilots to make Chris happy, and then I also looked at the airliner autopilots to make everyone else happy. So oxygen systems. Basically, we have two separate oxygen systems in X-plane now, crew and passenger oxygen. One is a chemical oxygenator, the other one is like a pressurized bottle of compressed oxygen. It works with physical units, so you enter exactly the pressure of the bottle in PSI and the volume of the bottle in liter, and then you have a setting like how many people are hooked up to the masks, like just one pilot or a crew of 4 is hooked up to the masks, and then it calculates how much are they breathing, how high are we, how much oxygen do they need to keep breathing. And of course, this is all modeled after equipment we personally use. So, for example, this oxygen regulator here, that's the thing that we use in Austin's pressurized plane, obviously. So, X-plane always had this, the hypoxia model. So every now and then we get a tech support question. Hey, I take off in the 737, I climb up, and then everything turns black. Your simulator sucks. And I've had people like hypothesize, oh, it's always after about 15 minutes. My graphics card is overheating. I need to take out my graphics card and put a better cooling system on it or whatever. And then finally they figured out, no, it's not the graphics card overheating. It's they are coming up to like 15,000 feet on their flight. They haven't had the cabin pressurized correctly. And then of course, they black out because they lose oxygen. And now with X-plane 1130, what you can do is you can plug in your oxygen mask, take control of the situation without your screen turning black, and you can stay on oxygen and figure out what to do and then make an emergency descent or whatever. Yeah, the other thing I've been looking at is anti-ice and de-ice systems. This is another good tech support question we get every now and then. Yeah, I flew through this rain and my plane stalled. And your simulator sucks. So what do we need to do about this? Yeah, well, if you're flying through a cloud with moisture in it and it's freezing temperature outside, of course you're going to pick up ice. And X-plane does this in several ways. X-plane makes your plane heavier. X-plane makes your wing stall sooner. X-plane makes the wing produce less lift if there's ice on it, yada yada yada. So how do you get rid of this ice? So we have now several systems in X-plane that all have different characteristics. So you have electric anti-ice, which is like the modern thing. You just flip a switch, it heats up, and the heat gets rid of the ice. Then of course the airliners, they don't normally use electric systems, they use bleed air from the engine. So if you turn this on, it'll sap bleed air from the engine, which means your EGT is going up, your thermal efficiency of the engine is going down, and you're using that heat to get rid of the ice on the wing. Then of course the small general aviation aircraft, they use chemical anti-ice most of the time. So they have a little tank with a TKS fluid, and you pump that out to the leading edges of the wing and onto the prop, and that fluid dissolves the ice. And this works just like the oxygen system. It's physical units, it knows how big your wing is, it knows how much fluid it's going to need. You put in, I have like an 8-liter tank of the TKS fluid, and then you'll use up that fluid to get rid of the ice. And if you run out of fluid before you run out of clouds, well, then you have a problem. Then we have that, what is on the King Air here, the old system, what they used to do, the rubber boots, de-ice, important, it's not anti-ice, it's de-ice, so you need to let the ice build up, then you turn on the compressor, and then the boots inflate and shed the ice. And you can really see this in X-Plane, that the ice goes up and up and up and up, and then the boots activate, and then you get rid of the ice. But there's really no way to get rid of the ice in between. As I said, works with physical units. So the next thing in systems I've been looking at are propeller governors. So what you see here, again, a King Air, and you notice the prop blades are completely flat. So what happened here is this engine stopped, it lost all the oil pressure, and with no oil pressure to the prop hub, the blades go in the feather position to have the least possible drag in case the engine fails in flight. So back in X-Plane 10, I guess, we had some logic to figure out what the prop should do when the oil pressure goes away. And when we turned that on, people like Carenado and the other add-on makers came to us, yeah, you're doing that wrong, my add-on is broken, stop doing that. So what we did now for 1130, we let the airplane author choose the exact governor type they need, and how it behaves in failure. So in a single engine piston, you will normally have the prop fail to fine pitch with loss of oil pressure. In a Baron or other piston-driven twin, you will have the prop fail towards coarse pitch, but you will have an anti-feathering spring in there. That means the prop does not go into feather if you shut the engine down on the ground regularly, so not in failure. And then the free two-spool turboprop engines, they fail to full feather, just like you see here with the King Air. Then of course we have two different auto feathering systems now in 1130 to make dealing with an engine failure easier. And then of course we have for turboprop engines that are geared turboprops, fixed turboprops, unlike the one in the King Air, but more what you would find in a Commander. We have the start blocks and unfeathered pumps, because you cannot start a geared turboprop against a feathered prop. And of course we have the negative torque sensing for those turbines as well. And the King Air got some additional things like the fuel topping governor and overspeed governor. And you can simulate all those failure modes, like you can fail the main governor and still have the overspeed governor working and stuff like that. All right, yeah, and then of course we need this guy, the inflatable autopilot. So for general aviation, I went on a survey and looked at different autopilots that are in use in general aviation aircraft, and well, I'm fortunate enough to now have flown about, I don't know, 25, 30 different types of aircraft in my flying career so far, so I get to try a lot of different autopilots. So for X-Plane 1130, the aircraft creator can choose one of those pre-configured types of autopilots, or go for full customization, where they can like customize the functionality. So we have the GFC 700, which you find in the modern G1000 aircraft. So like in our G1000 172 and the Cirrus Jet in X-Plane. We have the position-based King or Century flight systems, which is exactly the thing that you see on the right here. So this is what you would find in our King Air or Baron. And then we have the traditional rate-based autopilots. I'm not going into detail what position-based and rate-based means. I have a video on YouTube that explains all that. So yeah, the most S-Tech and King autopilots that you find in most Pipers and Cessnas. And then we have a real old Piper auto control system that does almost nothing, but when it works, it's great. They can be single or dual axis, so you can either have a pitch servo or not. and you can have altitude pre-select or not, and they behave differently. And you can have a 2-servo setup or a 3-servo setup, so whether the pitch acts on the actual pitch axis or the pitch trim axis. So there's little differences there, and you can turn on the trim servo or not. So general aviation, then of course also airliners have autopilots, and X-Plane has been a little short on functions there, so I took care of that hopefully. So we added auto throttle modes for N1 driven and EPR driven engines. I added Boeing style control wheel steering, because Austin is of course adding the Airbus style stuff, so I took care of the Boeing style stuff. We have master flight director, so X-Plane used to have one flight director that you switch between sources. Now you can configure X-Plane to instead have 2 hardwired flight directors, and you switch the autopilot between the flight directors. And that allows me to do something that I've been meaning to do for a long time, because before I started working on X-Plane itself, I've been working on X-Plane add-ons. So I know how the sausages are made. And most of the add-ons that you have that claim full auto-land capability, it's all smoke and mirrors, because I've done that myself. I've done that smoke and mirrors myself. But now in X-Plane we're getting real dual channel and triple channel autopilot configuration that has all the preconditions and checks. So it's really 2 autopilots running in parallel, comparing the results before they allow you to do an autoland. And I'm going to regret that I did that, because I'm going to get so many bug reports of people, I can't get autoland to work. Your simulator sucks, the autoland doesn't work. So yeah, that is because it really checks all those preconditions. And yeah, and of course it does flare and rollout guidance, and it's real 3-axis. It has a directional autopilot servo. So by the way, who recognizes this autopilot? Who knows which airplane this autopilot is from? No one. You know that the cardiovascular surgeon conference is over there. Are you in the right room? All right, so this is the autopilot from the Hawker Trident, which is the first airplane ever that could do full autolands. So unfortunately, we don't have a Hawker Trident in X-Plane, but we can teach other planes to do full autolands. Who follows my YouTube channel? Again, the doctor's conference. Here you are in the wrong room, apparently. Anyway, so those who follow me on YouTube have maybe seen my how to land a 737 in a 15-knot crosswind video. Maybe you've seen that. Okay, what I'm going to tell you now, what I didn't tell you when I published the video, is that wasn't me doing a good crosswind landing. That was the autopilot doing a good crosswind landing. So I present to you, let's see, 17 gusting 25, I think. 17 gusting 25 crosswind with 30 degrees of wind shear, full auto land. I'm not touching the controls. Here we go. So this is of course Raleigh-Durham Airport, 5 left. And yeah, watch it fight the wind. And as it touches down, you will know it decrabs in the flare, puts the wing into the wind, uses the rudder to get the crab out, and then it stays on the center line while the gusts are hitting it, and it's riding the gusts out with the rudder as it goes down the runway for the full rollout guidance. So here comes the decrab, watch the rudder. There you go. So I heard they are introducing those new Thrustmaster rudder pedals. Yeah, with that you don't even need the rudder pedals, because it keeps the thing on the center line without you ever touching the pedals. All right, I invite Ben back up to the stage.
That autopilot flies so much better than I do. I want to spend just about 5 minutes just giving you a quick Vulkan update, and then I have a couple new graphics things I want to show you some videos of. So, last year... Can somebody lower the lights a little bit? Oh, beautiful. So, about a year ago, we showed you this slide about multi-core. And we showed you that slide, and we announced about a year ago that we are moving to Vulkan and metal as the foundation for our new graphics technologies. And so it's been a year, and so the obvious question is, are we there yet? No. You asked 10 minutes ago, sit back down in your car seat, stop poking your brother, or I will turn this car around. So, what we could have done is just jam Vulkan onto the side of the existing X-Plane engine. But we decided not to do this, because if we did this, it would have been a lot quicker, but we would have had all of the problems we have now with our existing OpenGL-based engine, and more layers of stuff in the rendering engine, and that wasn't what we wanted to do. So what we are doing is we are rebuilding the rendering engine so that it works as if it was designed from day one with Vulkan. And this is going to take a lot longer, but the results are going to be a lot better. So, since this is a long-term project, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual and just show you where we are in the process. I'll show you, this is a checklist that Sydney and I were using for our work on Vulkan. It's a list of things that we have to convert from OpenGL to Vulkan to move X-Plane. And, you know, we are making some progress. A number of really big things have already been converted, and a number of big things have also not been converted. So we're working on it. About 4 weeks ago, I said to Sydney, you know, it would be cool to show some Vulkan stuff at FSExpo. And I thought, you know what people would really like to see? They like to see airfoil maker running in Vulkan. So I went to Sydney and I said, well, you know, with the stuff on the left, you could probably get airfoil maker running, right? And so he worked for a while, and he came up with this. And I said, that's awesome, but where are all the numbers? So he worked a little more, and then he got that, and I said, Austin doesn't like it when the text is red. And so finally, a couple days ago, we reached this. This is airfoil maker running natively in Vulkan. Now, none of you have ever actually asked me to port airfoil maker to Vulkan. You don't actually need airfoil maker to run at 500 FIPS. So this is not actually terribly useful to you. But it is useful for us, because this is a checkpoint on our way in this long journey. The port to Vulkan is a long process, and this just shows us that the work we've done in the last year is actually working, and that we can keep going in this direction and end up with something that's going to be useful. And this progress actually already starts to tell us what it's going to be like under Vulkan. Because this airfoil maker screen you see takes over 18,000 calls to the OpenGL driver to draw, and it takes about 5,700 calls in Vulkan. So this is 70% less work by moving from OpenGL to Vulkan. So we look at this and we think, this is a good direction to be going. I do want to take 1 minute and just kind of burst the bubble a little bit on Vulkan, because I've read some things on Reddit that were a little bit speculative. Vulkan is not going to bring world peace. It's just not, okay? Vulkan is not going to fix rendering artifacts. The point of Vulkan is to have X-Plane look exactly the same as it used to, but go faster. So for things like rendering bugs, like the clouds and the lights, Vulkan is not a magic bullet. I just have to fix my bugs. Vulkan is not going to take your 18-year-old Pentium 2 with a GeForce 5200FX and make it an X-Plane 11 machine. It's not a silver bullet. We think it is going to be better, but if your hardware is embarrassing, you might need new hardware. And I should also mention that Vulkan on day one is not going to be a multi-core improvement. We are going to work on multi-core, but we need to do Vulkan first, and then we need to do multi-core second. Vulkan makes it possible. But the good news is, as we've been working on this project, X-Plane has been getting faster. And it looks like we've got about a 25% performance improvement from 1120, which we've shipped, to 1130, just in the work we've been doing to get to Vulkan. So we're happy with our work because it's going in the right direction. Now, we've completed all of the design work and done some of the implementation of the Vulkan import. So we can actually answer this question pretty well about what Vulkan is going to be like for third-party developers. And this is what it looks like. If your add-on uses OpenGL to do a custom display in an airliner, and this is a very important category for us, or if your add-on is doing user interfaces, it's just going to work. Even if you're using OpenGL and we're using Vulkan or Metal, we will take care of compatibility for you on that. If your add-on is drawing stuff, pushback trucks, multiplayer planes for X-Squawkbacks or X-IMAP or Pilot's Edge, if you're using the latest APIs from X-Plane 11, it will just work. But if you're not, you need to modernize. This stuff is ready. It's been available since X-Plane 11.10. So talk to me if you haven't done this, but get modern so that your add-on will work with Vulkan. If your add-on is drawing custom graphics in 3D, this is your X-Enviro and your SkyMax, you cannot run your OpenGL code in 3D when we are running Vulkan. These things cannot be connected. So if this is your situation, you should come talk to us soon and let us know what you want to do. If you'd actually like to make a 3D add-on in Vulkan, you should talk to us about what might be possible, because this will be the hardest category. We will keep shipping OpenGL for X-Plane 11 for the entire life of the product. So you don't have to worry that you get one of those update notifications and you update and, oh no, now it's Vulkan only and all my stuff is broken. We're going to give you the choice of both for the life of the entire product, okay? This is the big question, of course. When? We might have a beta by the end of the year. Maybe. Maybe a tech demo. It's hard to tell. There's still a lot of stuff in that checklist left to do. So if it's December 31st and you don't have Vulkan, I don't want to hear about it. But this is what we're shooting for. We're pushing really hard on this stuff to get it out soon. So that's the situation with Vulkan. And in the last few minutes, I just want to show you some stuff we're doing for third-party developers to make add-ons. And I've got some new stuff to show you here. There we go. So this is FMod, our sound system. This is available for X-Plane 11, and Jennifer has made a fantastic YouTube tutorial showing you exactly how to wire up FMod sound to your airplanes. So this is something you can do now, and there's good tutorials and documentation to make an FMod plane. X-Plane has a plugin system, and Tyler and Jennifer have completely redone the website for our plugin system. The old website was really, really awful. It was done by me, but that's been fixed, so you can actually find stuff. So if you're making plugins, we've got great resources for you now. This is all completely updated to X-Plane 11.20. We have an export preset for Substance Painter 2. Substance Painter 2 is a great tool for making realistic materials, and Alex just finished a tutorial on how to paint in Substance Painter 2 and bring it to X-Plane. So if you're making add-ons and you really want to get those great materials like you've seen in a lot of these pictures, we have good resources for this. So these are all X-Plane 11 technologies that we've really tried to make accessible so that the entire community can take advantage of them. Until now, it has not been possible to customize the effects, the contrails, the engine smoke, the engine fires. That has just been part of X-Plane and you couldn't mess with it. That is going to change in X-Plane 11.30 because in X-Plane 11.30, we're going to ship our new X-Plane particle effect system. And I'm going to show you just a couple things about it now, okay? A particle effect system is a tool for airplane developers and artists to customize all of the effects with their add-ons. Contrails, smoke trails, tire smoke, all these things. You attach them to an airplane and you customize them. And we're giving artists complete control to make things look exactly like they want. It is very similar to what we've done with FMod in terms of tying things together. So I'll show you just a short video. As you watch the 737, watch behind the plane, watch the engine inlets, watch the tire wheels. This is just a quick test that Alex made last week as we were working on the particle effect system. And everything that you see happening with this airplane was done by Alex. It's not built in. He said, I'm going to add some wheel water and some condensation in the inlets. And he has complete control to customize all of these things. They can be customized for each aircraft. This is the editor we're giving to artists for a particle effect system. It's very graphical. It's based on the X-Plane 11 UI, so it's easy to use. And you just customize these curves and tune exactly what you want your effects to look like. The effect system is tied to X-Plane via data refs. So you can connect your effects to any of the over 4,000 different variables in X-Plane that you have access to. You can use as many data refs as you want to keyframe them, so you can tune your effects to be as accurate and realistic as you want. And because we're using data refs, this of course means that plugins can totally add their own data. You can script this, and you can customize it for the systems in your add-on. So it's very powerful and very flexible. If you just watch the wheels on this takeoff, the mist coming off the wheels is connected to two different things. The speed of the tires and also the runway conditions, both accessible by data refs. But there's no reason why you couldn't go crazy with it. You can say, I want to look at the strut compression or any other variable of this airplane to customize the effect and make it look like you want. Now, X-Plane has some graphics things that it can do. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong slide. The editor runs inside X-Plane, and you customize your effects while X-Plane is running, which gives you a lot of control to see exactly what you're doing. So in this video, I've got the effects editor open for the engine smoke of the 737, and I'm just playing with the graph for how thick that smoke looks and making it more opaque and more transparent. And as I drag, the smoke is changing its look right then and there. It's very fast, it's very immediate, and it's going to give artists a lot of control to really dial in the effects and make them look exactly like they want them to look. So X-Plane's engine can do a couple things. It happens. And X-Plane's engines can do a couple things that some of the other flight simulators can't do. And one of them is that we have lights that act on the entire scene. You can light up the scenery with your airplane. So watch underneath the engine nacelles. The particle system is emitting light, and so as that engine fire burns, it lights up the scenery around it dynamically. This is something that artists can use all over their models to create all sorts of effects. Watch at the top of the fire, the heat blur system that X-Plane 11 has is tied to the particle effect system. So you can add heat shimmer anywhere you want. You take the fire away, you can see the effect system is creating the heat blur. And again, this gives artists tons of control to make the effects realistic. For X-Plane 1130, we've redone the heat blur to make it look more realistic. When you are close to the airplane, the heat blur shimmers the way you would see in real life. But when you look from far away with a telephoto lens, it becomes very blurry, which is what you would see like on an airliners.net picture. And it's an automatic effect, so you get heat blur that looks realistic from a number of different viewpoints. Watch the heat blur coming out of the engine nacelles, out of the exhaust, as the engine ramps up. Because this is a particle system tied to X-Plane's physics, as the exhaust stream comes out, it changes shape, and you can really see that thrust being focused and then eventually dispersing as it moves back. So you get really great visualization of the physics inside X-Plane. So this is our new particle effect system. It's going to be an X-Plane 1130, and it's going to be usable by third parties and anyone who wants to customize the effects of X-Plane. It's meant to be powerful, it's meant to be easy to use and interactive, and I'm really excited to see what third parties do with this and really take their airplanes up to the next level. So in closing out, just a quick note about when this stuff is coming. X-Plane 1125 with the updated Las Vegas, Chicago, and the new Gateway airports, that is available today. That actually just went beta today, so you can click Get Betas and get the upgraded Las Vegas right now. X-Plane 1130, which is going to have all the new physics and the systems work that Austin and Phil were working on. It's going to have some of the new artwork, the new particle system. That's going to be late summer, early fall. That'll be our next big patch. And Vulkan will be after 1130, maybe this year. We're certainly aiming for that. So this is what our roadmap looks like for the rest of the year. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If we have any more time left, we're happy to do Q&A for as long as we get kicked out of the room, as we have until we get kicked out of the room. Thank you.